The morning started like any other. I was just finishing up my report on the meteorite fragments, the ones they'd pulled from that Kansas farm field. A routine analysis, or so I thought. The coffee machine hissed in the corner, a familiar comfort. I reached for my pen, the one with the tiny SM engraved on it, always on the right side of my keyboard. But this morning it was sitting neatly on the left. And it was still warm, like someone had just set it down. I frowned, a small involuntary twitch of my brows. Maybe I'd been more distracted than usual last night, put it down absent-mindedly. Or maybe the strange dreams I'd been having were messing with my head. Yeah, that had to be it. I pushed the pen back to its rightful spot, forcing a small dismissive shrug. Nothing to worry about, just me being me. But then, when I finally sat down, my telescope microscope, the one that's always dead center on my workbench, it was off by about an inch. To the left. Still plugged in, its pale blue standby light blinking. I gave a soft, dry laugh. Must have forgotten to put it away last night, I mumbled to myself. Or those dreams really are scrambling my brain. I tried to shake it off, to chalk it up to sleep deprivation. I picked up a rock sample from the meteorite, turning it over in my hand. In the reflection on the stainless steel cabinet door, I saw my mirrored image raise its hand, inspect the rock, and then slowly, deliberately lower it. Almost half a second after I did. I blinked. My reflection blinked too, but that slight, inexplicable delay was there again. It felt off. And then, from deep inside my ears, I heard this low hum. It was faint, like a distant swarm of bees, and it made my scalp tingle. It buzzed, just slightly, behind my eyes. I rubbed my temples, trying to clear the feeling. Just tired, I told myself, nothing special. I tried to focus. My laptop was open, pulling up a local news channel. There was a short report about the nearby town, how people there were suddenly feeling much stronger, healthier, working tirelessly. But their eyes, the reporter said, they were vacant. And they had this unnerving habit, all of them, of turning their heads at the same exact moment, looking off into some unknown direction, like a flock of birds. It made the hair on my arms stand up. When the report ended, one of the men on screen, he looked straight into the camera, his lips not even moving. But I heard a voice, a cold, mechanical whisper, echoing inside my skull. It said, clear as day, "You are feeling your weakness." My breath hitched. I slammed the laptop shut. A wave of cold washed over me, a chill that went straight through my bones. My heart was pounding now, a frantic drum against my ribs. No, no way. This couldn't be happening. I jumped up, grabbed a handful of emergency biological sampling kits from the stainless steel cabinet. My hands were shaking, just a little, but my eyes were locked in. I had to know what was happening to me. I decided to work late after everyone had left. Just me and the hum that seemed to follow me now, a constant, low thrum in the back of my head. I went back to my lab at midnight, the fluorescent lights bathing everything in a cold, pale blue glow. My own lab, the one I felt safest in. I pulled up the CCTV footage from earlier that day, the discrete cameras I'd set up around the room. I needed to see if I'd missed anything. The screen flickered to life, showing me, just a few hours ago, leaning over the microscope. I saw myself there, focused, my posture tense. And then I watched as the magnified image from the microscope, the one I was supposedly looking into, suddenly came up on the large monitor behind the video me. It filled the screen, huge. And in that magnified image, it wasn't a sample. It was my own eye, staring straight into the camera, wide and unblinking. My stomach churned. I stared at the screen, my real self, frozen in the sterile lab. Was this a glitch? A distorted reflection? I tried to rationalize it. But then, it happened. On the video, the magnified eye on the bigger screen began to smile. Slowly, unnervingly. A wide smile, stretched too far, too wide. Definitely not my smile. Not the one I remembered. Not the one I usually made. And all the while, the real me, the one in the video, was still hunched over the microscope, seemingly oblivious, her face still etched with focused intensity. My own face, but the smile, it wasn't mine.
I knew it. And then, in the actual room I was in, the fluorescent lights above me started to flicker. Each flicker was a furious beat in my chest, a throb that resonated deep within me, until the whole lab plunged into darkness. Pitch black. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't help but collapse, sliding down the cold metal cabinet, my knees giving way beneath me. The sheer, impossible reality of what I'd just seen. It was palpable. It was here. And it was me. I hadn't just seen the impossible. I'd witnessed it turning everything I knew upside down, making me an observer in my own unraveling. My own terror. It felt raw, almost tangible, like it was the reason the lights had shorted, the power had gone. I stumbled out of the darkened lab, the chaotic memories of what I'd just seen, coupled with the unsettling changes in my body, pressing down on me. My head was throbbing now, a dull, insistent ache. I made my way to the corridor window, needing some air, some distance from the suffocating enclosure of the lab. Outside, the familiar expanse of farmhouses and cornfields stretched out under a pale moonlight. But as I squinted, looking harder into the vast open spaces, I saw it. A faint, pale, blue-green light, like bioelectric pulses, flickering not in the direction of the town, but far out, deep within the cornfields. It wasn't a normal light. It was enormous. A structure, slowly, deliberately, rising from the earth itself. It looked like the roots of some colossal, ancient tree, but made of bone and flesh. A blurry image, hard to make out fully in the dim light, but utterly unmistakable. It was exactly like the preliminary sketches of the bioarchitectural diagrams of the source I had glimpsed in the initial briefing materials. It had begun. The thought resonated, low and cold, in my mind. What happens when it's finished? The morning after, I woke up with my head throbbing, a dull, insistent ache that felt like it was pulling at the edges of my skull. But underneath that, there was something else. A kind of strange exhilaration, like I'd just run a marathon and won, even though I hadn't moved all night. My body felt light, a bit too light, and there was this strange hum, a low thrum that I was getting used to now. It was under my skin, in my bones. I got up, walked to the bathroom. The tiles felt too cold under my feet, or maybe my feet were just too sensitive now. I turned on the shower, let the warm water hit my face. The sound filled the small space, a rushing, comforting noise. Then, through the hiss and roar of the water, I heard it. A quiet giggle. A child's laugh. Too soft, too pleasant for the situation. It wasn't an echo of the water, not really. It sounded real. I frowned, a small involuntary movement of my brow. I turned off the faucet. The laughter stopped immediately. My heart gave a little thump. No way. This was just residual stress, my mind playing tricks. Must be the water, I whispered to myself, the words feeling foreign in the sudden silence. Or maybe the ventilation. I tried it again, cautiously, turning the knob. The shower hissed back to life. No laughter this time, just the water. Alone in the apartment, I told myself, trying to calm the frantic beat in my chest. Just me, and this hum. I really need to get some rest. I mean, seriously, a child's laugh in my bathroom? My nerves were shot. That had to be it. Later, lying on the bed, still trying to shake off the lingering sense of unease, I grabbed an old photo album, one of the few things I still kept from childhood. The familiar feel of the worn cover, the smell of old paper. I needed something real, something solid. I flipped through the pages, past faded birthday parties and awkward school pictures, until I found it. A picture of me and my dad, decades ago, fishing by a lake. He was smiling, a wide, genuine smile, his arm around my shoulders. The sun was probably setting, casting a warm orange glow over the water. A good memory, a safe one. Then it happened. Right there, in the quiet of my mind, a voice spoke. It was cold, detached, entirely alien. But there was something in its cadence, a twisted echo, almost familiar. It cut right through the warmth of the memory, like static over a radio signal. It said, "He wishes your brother could experience this with you." My breath hitched. I froze, the album heavy in my lap. My hand trembled, just slightly. A brother? I didn't have a brother. Never did.
I was an only child. I closed my eyes, squeezed them shut, tried to push the words away. It was a distortion, a glitch in the data stream of my own head. "Just stress," I muttered, my voice barely a whisper. "My memories are just getting fragmented. That's probably it. No big deal." But the cold sweat trickling down my spine told a different story. The voice, it echoed, and it sounded so damn convinced. The urge to understand, or at least to find something, anything solid to hold on to, became unbearable. I needed information, outside validation of what was happening, or proof that I was just losing my mind. I switched on the TV, hoping for news, for anything that could explain away the madness that seemed to be closing in. The screen flickered to life, showing a reporter, her face grim, talking about the peculiar illness spreading. Thousands, she said, were showing similar symptoms, these transformations. Their eyes, she repeated, were vacant. And then the screen burst into static, a loud, sharp crackle that made me jump. For a split second, an image flashed onto the screen. It was an insect, horrifying. Too many legs, too many joints, its head a mass of obsidian black eyes. A creature that had haunted my childhood nightmares, an irrational phobia from when I was small. It was that exact insect. My blood ran cold. The terror was overwhelming, a tidal wave that washed over me. I fumbled for the remote, switching channels frantically. Click, static. Another channel, click, more static. And with each flicker, each pop of white noise, it flashed again. The insect, always the insect. And each time, a low, guttural hum, like thousands of tiny, rasping voices, vibrated from the walls around me. Not just from the TV, but from the plaster, from the floorboards, from deep within the building's foundations. It was as if my deepest, most private fear was being broadcast, amplified, echoed back to me by the very structure of my apartment. It pulsed, a sickening, living thrum that permeated everything. And it didn't stop. I couldn't deny it anymore. This wasn't just my imagination. This was real, and it knew. I slammed the TV off, the sudden silence almost as disturbing as the hum itself. I pulled myself to the window, needing air, needing to look at something normal. The night air was cold against my face, crisp and clean. Outside, under the pale moonlight, dozens of figures were gathering. Men and women, young and old, the locals. Not frantic, not panicked. They were forming groups, moving with a chilling, synchronized purpose, heading in one direction. Their faces were blank, their eyes like polished stone, devoid of any recognition or emotion. They didn't look at me. They didn't look at anything in particular, their gaze fixed on some unseen point on the horizon. Not aggressive, just indifferent, as if I were less than invisible. Then one of them, a stout man I recognized from the grocery store, stopped. Slowly, silently, something began to emerge from his left shoulder joint. A gnarled, dry branch, like a piece of dead wood, pushing its way through his shirt, through his flesh, without a sound. It lengthened, twisting and coiling unnaturally. He used it, this grotesque new limb, to stab into a patch of barren earth, planted it there like a seed. Then, without a pause, he continued his slow, methodical march with the others. I looked down at my own hand, clenching it, then unfurling my fingers. The faint, purplish veins under my skin that I'd started to notice days ago were now starker, bolder under the pale light. They pulsed faintly, like tiny rivers. And my fingernails, they had lengthened, just a little, sharper. Not much, but enough. Enough to know. Enough to confirm what I already felt deep in my gut. These changes, they weren't going to reverse. They weren't going to stop. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that I was changing too. I was becoming a part of whatever that was. And all I could do was watch it happen. The fear, it was a constant companion now. It clung to me, a damp, heavy cloak. I ran, blindly, the low thrum beneath my skin pushing me forward. I needed to escape, to find somewhere, any place, where I could think, where I could write. I found a dilapidated, abandoned farmhouse, its windows like vacant eyesores, its door hanging precariously on a single rusty hinge. Inside, dust hung heavy in the air, a thick, suffocating blanket.